Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's session. And thank you so much for being here today. So, today we have a very interesting session. I, for one, am very interested in understanding what the inner development goals are. We all know what the SDGs are. So, this is going to be a very interesting talk that we have today. And I'm so happy to have Parinita Katgaonkar with us. She is a SANI board member, and some of you may recognize her because she was also on the selection panel for this fellowship. She is an architect by qualification and currently working as Senior VP at the RMZ Board. At work, she focuses on sustainable developments and communities with emphasis on embodied carbon reduction and green mobility. She's a heritage evangelist and she conducts heritage walks with khaki tours in the city. Wow, that's really interesting, Parinita. She was part of the first cohort of the Global Leadership in Sustainable Design program that was offered by Inner Development in Sweden. So, yes, thank you so much for joining and thank you so much for doing this for us today. We are really happy and really excited to have you here. And I'm sure the other fellows are equally excited as well. I see Merin has just joined, and I think that's Elsa connecting as well.
Sure. Thank you, Sonali. Thank you so much. And
Thank you so much.
like
Over
I
to you.
said, you didn't have to persuade me too much because I have benefited from how do you say getting associated with the IDGs, and I would definitely like to spread the word so that and well, there have been studies which have proven that it does help in attaining the SDGs. So, without waiting anymore, let me just share my
Vanita,
screen.
just one moment. In the meantime, while you're sharing your screen, I think Elsa's just joined. Elsa, if you'd like to say hi to everyone.
Hi, I'm joining from my phone, so it took a minute to unmute and also put on the video. But welcome, everyone. I'm sure this session is going to be exciting. Parinita, thank you for taking us through it. I do believe that if we have to achieve the sustainable development goals, we have to do inner work, and that's why this is really important. So the ESG fellows are really lucky to have this at the very start of the program, and I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Elsa. You're not driving and talking, are you?
No. I'm going to be driven somewhere. But
Then it's
also,
okay.
I wanted to say that the IDG summit is happening at the same time in
No, no,
Sweden, or was happening.
no, it just concluded on Thursday
Okay.
that went by. Yeah, in Stockholm.
Okay. Okay. So I'm also going to log in as much as I can and hear you because I'm also interested in this topic. So thank you so
Sure.
much.
Thanks, Elsa.
Over to you, Parinita.
Yeah, just give me a minute. Oh, I hope everybody can see my screen. All right, so hello everyone. Some of you I have met during the fellowship selection process. The others I know of you and have heard your name and I've read through what your focus is or what you're trying to do. So, so what we're going to do today is today's session is on inner development goals, which is a part of your fellowship program curriculum, if I may use the word, right? So, well, before we get into the presentation and all that, has anyone of you heard of the inner development goals, or did you go and try and Google and search after you came to know that we were doing a session today? No one? Somebody else? What in the chat? No, Vishwas says that he has not heard. Anybody else who wants to respond?
I did Google them, Parinita, because I wanted to actually understand the difference between the SDGs, the IDGs, and things.
Right,
But I'm
right.
actually looking forward to today's session to really understand it in detail.
Yeah. No. So I think one of the essential things that every one of us should um, practice is that we have to consciously keep our curiosity alive. So if you come across something which is new, I mean, the least we can do is Google, right? And find out what it is. So, okay, anyway, let's move on. Um, so we are all aware that in 2015, um, hello, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yeah. So, in 2015, at the United Nations, the countries discussed an agenda, and they said that these are the 17 SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, that we'll have to achieve if we have to, have a sustainable world by 2030. And well, we are much near the target date, and still not enough progress is happening, not at the speed at which we wanted. So, in all probability, it doesn't look like we will be able to reach those goals in the time that we had envisaged or thought about, or in the framework what we had expected. So then a lot of thought was given to this, and what was felt was that there's a need to, because we were not achieving those as countries, as organizations. So what do we need to do? Do we need to increase our collective abilities, to effectively work towards these SDGs, or what? So with that basic thought, uh, what sprung was that we need to co-create, co-create something called as the inner development goals. So when the when this seed was planted and the idea was formed, we had about 4,000 plus scientists, experts, practitioners, and a lot of other capable people who had the qualities and the expertise to get together and see what is it that we need to accelerate um, the goal of meeting these 17 SDGs, right? So what is this inner development goals then? Basically, it is a um, non-profit open source organization for inner development, because uh, the the premise that it is built on is that we cannot effectively bring about a change till we have changed ourselves from within. And when I say ourselves, I mean individuals as well as organizations, as well as countries and multinational companies and whatnot. So, so what is it that then the IDGs do? So, at the IDGs, we research, collect, communicate science-based skills and qualities that would help us to live purposeful, sustainable, and productive lives. So, who are the initiating partners in this? So, basically, it's this movement started out of Sweden, where one of the initiating partners, or founding members was Thomas Bjorkman, who also has founded an app, which is a mindfulness app called 29K. And then these people got together along with academic partners of various universities, got together to get in touch with senior scientific advisors and global thought leaders as to what should be the uh, how we should go about uh, identifying these skills and qualities that are required. So as you can see from this slide, senior practitioners and advisors all were involved in the forming of this, right? There are many institutional partners also who felt that that this is what is needed. So we have the BMW Foundation, Herbert Kwan, um, the Inner Green Deal. We have the Present Singh Institute of Autosharma, the Templeton World Charity Foundation, the Kamal Liza Foundation from Tunisia, and so on. And we also roped in collaborating partners, which are basically these big organizations. Many of them are from Sweden because this thought sort of originated from Sweden, right? So then what are these inner development goals? So based on the research, and there were open surveys done which spoke about what is it that we want to achieve and how do we go about it. So scientists and thinkers and practitioners identified about 23 skills that could be put in five broad categories, and said that if we can achieve these for our inner development, we may be in a better position to attain the SDGs. Um, I'm not saying these are the only 23 skills and these are the only five buckets, so to say, that we can categorize them in, but it's a start. And a lot of deliberation was done, and more or less, almost, whatever skill you can think of, it would fall under these categories. So, what are these five categories or buckets that we are talking about? So, one was being, the second one was thinking, which talks about the cognitive skills. Third was relating, caring for others and the world. Fourth was collaborating, which was social skills, because this entire movement is essentially co-creation. And then there was acting, where you enable change armed with all these skills that you have. Any questions so far, or can I go on?
No questions. I think we can just
Okay.
go ahead.
All right. So, moving ahead. So, what is this IDG framework that we've been talking about, right? This we spoke about. So, the first one is being. I mean, you have to have a relationship with your own self first, right? So, which is, how well you connect to your thoughts, your feelings, your body, and how you can channelize your energy into intentionally driving and achieving change or implementing change, and how to be calm, how to be, how to not be, or how not to explode when you are faced with a complexity, and how to face everything, with a very calm mind. So the skills that we are talking about is, first is the inner compass, which is, you have a very deep rooted sense and commitment to, not only the good of you as a human being, but good for the whole. I mean, good of the whole for everybody else. Integrity and authenticity is another skill which you have to have, because when you're committing, because this is, I mean, it is, in that sense, it is very selfish and very selfless also, because you're talking about the good of the whole, but to get to that, you have to be good to yourself as well. Then you have to have an openness and learning mindset. And this is what I was talking about, having a basic mindset of curiosity and a willingness to be able to, be vulnerable and, open up, having a high trust, uh, of striving to create a high trust society, or at least your community, so that, you can, um, uh, you have each other as your support systems, and then you can change and grow. Self-awareness, which is, the ability to be alone with your thoughts. And I mean, you need not surround yourself with people all the time, and, have some time out for yourself, so that you can gather your thoughts, you can formalize your thoughts, and you can see how you can channelize those. And of course, then there is presence, which is the ability to be in the present, and not be judgmental, and always be willing to be very open. So there is a certain openness that you have to develop, openness of giving as well as openness of receiving. Then the next category is thinking, which is our cognitive skills, right? So how do we expand our horizons, our thought processes? Is by, of course, taking in different perspectives. Uh, any piece of information that you get, just don't believe it at face value, but try and learn how to evaluate that and see where it is going, where it is coming from, um, the the source, whether that is credible, and so on and so forth, and then make an informed decision, right? So basically, critical thinking uh, becomes a very important part, like reviewing the validity and so on. Also, another facet to this is the complexity awareness. As the title suggests, it's understanding how, because we are living in a very complex world, and uh, everything has a cause and effect, right? So what were the causes that has led to this conflict or complexity, and that will help you find a solution better. Same is the case with your perspective skills, because then you are able to uh, detach yourself from the dialogue and stand on the edge and look at it from everybody's perspective for you to make an informed decision. Sense making, which talks about when you start evaluating or analyzing anything, uh, you can start seeing patterns, and you will be able to change the narrative if you master this sense making. And of course, the long term orientation and vision, which means so in the first category, we saw how you are able to channelize and formulate your thoughts, and this is looking at creating a framework which will be a long term orientation and vision. And this is, I mean, I'm talking about individuals, but this also applies directly to organizations as well. The next one is relating, which is caring for others and the world, and in turn, actually, you're caring for yourself. Uh, Appreciation, so appreciate what others are doing, practice gratitude, and be happy. This will also lead you to connectedness, because we as human beings are of course connected, and then you can be connected with people when you have a common purpose, when you have a common goal, or even if you're not a common purpose or a goal, but you will have certain commonalities that you set, and it sort of takes you back to what I was talking to you about patterns in the earlier category. The next one is humility, and I think this this is there in the IDGs, but this we should be practicing in any case, because you know, as the title suggests, you are able to set aside your ego and look at what the situation needs and be humble about it. And last but not the least is the empathy and compassion. Um, if you're able to relate to others, if you're able to see their perspective and point of view, then I think you can embrace empathy and compassion and address whatever suffering is going on and arrive at a solution to the problem. Collaborating, I think this is very understated and underrated actually. Um, Communication skills, ability to really listen, not just hear, but listen. Uh, to have a dialogue, and once you start having a dialogue, you always have to have the first category, which talks about being one with your thoughts, being able to face any situation with a calm mind. This also helps here because even if there is a conflict, and if so, all of us working in the corporate world or otherwise, we know that whenever there is a group involved, there are bound to be conflicts, right? So, how does one resolve these conflicts, come out of it, and uh, you know, arrive at a solution which is mutually beneficial to all? Then is the co-creation skills. I mean, to have that trust and faith um, in the diverse group of people that you're with, and believing that together you will be able to create something better than you would have alone. Okay? Another step, another skill in this is the developing of an inclusive mindset and intercultural competence. I mean, we are talking about, like I'm saying, there are corporations which are multinationals, and you're working across boundaries with different people from different cultural backgrounds. And how does one be open? And that was the openness of receiving that I was talking about. That you have to be open. You have to have an inclusive mindset, and you have to understand that different cultures will have different ways of doing things. Trust, and I spoke about this earlier also. Um, Ability to not only trust but show that you trust, and to create and maintain, trusting and lasting relationship, and mobilization skills. So how do you, with your communication skills, with your co-creation skills, with your inclusive mindset and your trust, how are you able to mobilize a diverse group into taking the next step? And the next step is acting, which is essentially enabling change. So well, I think the first one is courage, because you have to have um, the courage to generate and develop ideas, innovate, etc., etc. But also the courage to fail, pick yourself up again, and begin again. This combined with creativity, because you will never have a straight path to uh, to implement or to get to any change. I mean, in your organizations, even in your schools and colleges, you would have seen that it's not very easy to get people to act, and it is it is also it becomes very difficult if you're not creative. You have to find workarounds. If something is not working, how do you tweak it? How do you make it more palatable for others so that more people can be involved in this? You have to be optimist, and that's a skill, and it can be taught and it can be developed. Optimism. Um, Never lose hope and never lose faith in your ultimate goal, right? Because there will be obstacles and there will be hurdles which seem unsurmountable at that point in time. But I think if you keep at it, you will be able to move mountains. Which brings me to the next one, which is perseverance. Um, Only optimism is not going to help you. You have to persevere because, as we've seen, sustainability and ESG, all these were buzzwords, and there was a lot of greenwashing going on. And these are the terms that you would have heard, you will keep hearing, you'll come across these very frequently. Um, but perseverance is, and now especially with actually the world is waking up and smelling the coffee, and we've discovered that we are already too late. But if at all we can do anything, then the time is now. We have to act now. But having said that, we cannot say, "Oh, I tried for 2 weeks and it didn't work, so I'm giving it up." That doesn't work. That. So we've taken a whole lot of time in destroying the planet. I think we need to persevere in our efforts to, get back to some level uh, where we can save the planet from the damage that we're doing to it. So that's it basically about these 23 skills in these 5 categories that I was talking to you about. So thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'll take them now. Sonali?
Thanks, Parinita. Thanks for that. So, yeah, let's open out to questions. And as Parinita, Parinita, as we were talking, maybe we can ask, help them understand how they can relate it to their ideas in actuality.
Yeah, so if they can talk to me about what is
Sure.
it that they're doing, then maybe we can.
Yeah, I think that would be great. So, if you can,
Okay, so
anyone.
sorry, before we even start doing that, very quickly, how many of you, I don't know if meditate is the right word, but how many of you take time to be with your thoughts, concentrate on the breath you take? How many of you do that? Regularly, not regularly, frequently, infrequently? Oh,
Yes, Aaron.
Aaron is saying something. Yes, Aaron.
Yeah, I do like take part in it. Like when I recite my rosary, so I tend to just like keep quiet and just like 5 minutes just to think of what I'm thinking. Like basically whatever comes to my mind, I try to like
Mhm.
suppress it down. Then I try to think on it. Was the decision right or wrong? Like it's like a self-reflection time for me. So yeah, I do
Right,
that sometimes.
right. So, I want you all to try something else also. Why don't you try something which is called as a guided meditation? I mean, there are enough and more tools on the net available. It's just some calming music playing in the background, and there's some instructions. So, because to channelize your thoughts, it's just helpful. Well, Priyanka is also saying every day, so that's good. So the others, and I'm not saying that this is some sort of a religion specific or a community specific thing, but I think in general, if you're able to spend some time alone with your thoughts and concentrate, maybe the first week you will not be able to concentrate on anything but just your breathing, and your thoughts will be wandering all over the place. But ultimately, you will start learning how to focus. So yeah, sorry, Sonali, I interrupted you. You were saying something.
In fact, while you were saying this, I was just thinking, yes, whenever I've tried, my thoughts have been all over the place, and I've gotten
Yeah.
distracted. So it's never, I have never succeeded in any sort of, just being with my thoughts and things like that. But maybe what you're
Yeah.
saying is right, that it's perseverance that was lacking
Yeah,
actually.
no,
So I
so
should
which
try.
is why this guided meditation, when I say, and so most of the tools on the web are actually created by people from the Western world. So they just tell you, uh, well, they sort of um, act as some sort of a guiding rail, you know. They'll ask you to concentrate on, if you're sitting with your feet on the ground, then concentrate on how your feet are on the ground so that your thoughts are not wandering here and there. So maybe that's a good thing to try and see if you can connect to yourself. Ah, we have a message.
So
Okay.
Anand says in the chat that
Yeah,
he wasn't able to make it a habit, but there's an app called Heartfulness that he recommends.
yes. So there's another app, this from one of the founders of the IDGs, which talks about the 29K app, and I think you should just download that and see, just for the sake of it, and how it feels. So interesting exercise, even if you don't end up practicing or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, Sonali, before you began this question and answer, I mean, before I went off on this meditation thing, you were saying something.
Yeah. No, I was asking them if they have any questions to ask you about about whatever you've covered.
Yeah.
And after that, maybe after we take their questions, then I think maybe we can, each one of them can take a couple of minutes to tell you, to talk about what their project is and how they think they could incorporate that. Because I think maybe, with a little bit of a hint of how they can incorporate it into their idea, it'll become more tangible for them, and they'll be able to
Sure.
actually use it.
Sure.
Yeah. So yes, over to all of you. Would anyone like to ask any questions? This is really, I mean, it's going to be really useful. So does anyone have any questions that, you'd like to ask with regard to the IDGs, with regard to everything that we've spoken about today? No questions? I think maybe is it that you found it
no,
a bit abstract?
Yeah. So no, I was about to say that in fact, if you all think that this is too much to digest at one point, at at one point in time, this is too much. I suggest you take some time, go back, rather than the 23 skills altogether, start breaking it into those 5 categories. Maybe look at one. And well, you have Sonali's contact, you have my contact, and Sonali can route your questions through to me. And maybe we can, have a email-based uh, Q&A kind of a thing also.
Oh, that sounds good. And we have a few more minutes. So if anyone would like to maybe um, tell us, maybe you share your idea with Parinita, and we can talk about how you would kind of relate that to the IDGs, how you can incorporate that, and then it may give everyone else an idea of how best to work with them. Would anyone like to volunteer?
Is it just the second or third session that they're having, Sonali?
Yes, it is. It's the
I think
it's
I
the
think they're
third
still
session.
they're still gearing up towards it, I think.
Yes. It is just the third session, but maybe one of you can share your idea, and then do you think that would work? If we use any one idea as as an example. So who would like to share their idea? Priyanka, what about you?
Sure, Sonali, I can. So basically, I am working on developing and creating some sustainable tools that we can use for community gatherings and ensuring that all the community gatherings are um, are basically sustainable, are you into the sustainable practices.
Hello, Priyanka?
Yeah, Parindra, did
Yeah,
you
yeah,
hear?
yeah.
Were you able to hear?
Yeah, no, I was not able to, which is why I asked her to repeat.
Oh, okay. All right. So I didn't hear that. So I'm saying that my idea is to work on the sustainable practices in a way that for all the community gatherings, all the community events, we are ensuring that, and this is, of course, to start from the small steps, but to ensure that we have sustainable practices in place. Yeah, that's what the idea is as of now.
And what have you thought about? I mean, what have you thought about what's going to be your final project, or do you have any idea about that in mind?
Yeah, so the pilot project is that in my own community, in my own society, per to say, there are about
Mhm.
450 households. So, how do we ensure that whenever, and it being a festive season, whenever the events are being held, how do we inspire people to take on sustainable practices and to ensure that there is no waste or there is no plastic usage and all of those, kind of check marks?
So how would you go about it? Now you tell me. Since you mentioned festive and festive season and everything, so let's say Navratri, right? So does your community where you stay, does it have a sort of a committee which is looking at these festivities?
Yes, so that's exactly the step. So, for example, right now the Navratri festival is going on, and they're organizing Dandiya, what do you call it? Dandiya dance,
Garba Dandiya, yeah.
Garba Dandiya, and then there are dinners that are happening in the society itself. So we are talking to the committee, which is basically called the Society Welfare Committee. We talk to them and speak to them that how can we ensure there are sustainable practices in place whenever there is a catering happening, or whenever there are practices like the dandiya, all of that is happening, and we are bringing in resources from outside. How do we ensure that these are not wasted, and how do we take care of every minute thing in terms of those plannings?
And
um,
and
as,
and what is the first? Have you had any meetings with them yet?
yes.
And what was the first reaction when you would have said, I mean, I'm assuming that you would have said that we will not use the packaged water, individual bottles or whatever.
Their first reaction was that the cost would go up, and who's going to bear that? Are the residents going to pay for it? We spoke to them about it in detail, that the cost never goes up, and that's what the idea is, or that's what we're trying to do. So therefore, their ultimate reaction, or I mean the final outcome of the meeting, is that they've asked us to hold it, or us to kind of ensure that within the cost that society welfare committee has decided, we ensure that on our own we are
So,
creating, ensuring those sustainable practices in the event organization.
and how big is your group, which is who are trying to do this?
We're just two people.
Yeah. So, which means these two people, you're already, you've identified the issue, you know your goal, what it is, right? And you are already, you have communicated with them. So that is one skill that you have. You face some complexity, you face some resistance. Now you have to figure out a way, a workaround, so that, the constraint is your budget. And how do you still manage to get to a point where the festivities are still there? People do enjoy that, but at the same time, you're not harming the environment, and well, you're not pinching the pockets of the residents as well, right?
Yeah.
So what you're doing essentially is that you're collaborating with this one other person, and you are looking at it from different perspectives. The committee, the community at large, the people who want to take part in the festivities, and so on. You're understanding everybody's um, point of view, right? Their perspectives, and yet you're trying to say that, you know what, if we can do it this way, then maybe there's a workaround. Maybe we'll not be able to achieve 100%, but we might be able to get to 80% at least, or whatever. I mean, I don't know the specifics. So I'm just um, assuming certain things. So you're doing all this, and what you would do, actually would end up do, is you will act. And if this sort of a model is successful, and if you're able to convince people, they should be able to collaborate with you next year from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, what you are doing is you are following um, these skills. You're using these skills, right? So Sam Dam Danda Bhed. So sometimes you will have to be stern, saying that no, this will have to be done. And sometimes you will have to find a workaround to what they're saying. Like they've given you a budget, which is a constraint or a hurdle, and you have to work around.
Yeah, right.
So the inner development goals, basically, they talk about all that. And they say that, the more we practice, and not only we practice, the more we learn, the more we co-create, the more we talk to other people as to what they are doing, what are the challenges faced by them, how did they work around it? Because what you said just now is a very small example, right? There are much more complex examples and projects where you have multiple stakeholders. Here, if I may say, there are just two stakeholders. One is the two of you, and one is the committee. In that sense, because the committee is not going to go back to the residents every time and ask them for their inputs. So in that sense, they are a large. So this is just two stakeholders. but there will be multiple stakeholders, and each will have their own point of view, own perspective, own agenda to push through. And at the end of it, you will have to sort of find some middle ground, convince some people, cajole some people, be open-minded enough so that you can listen to what people are trying to say, and then find a workaround.
Right.
And maybe if your model is successful, you can start pitching it to your neighboring communities as well.
Yeah, maybe at the larger scale.
Yeah. Thank you, Priyanka.
Thanks, Priyanka, and thanks, Parinita, for taking that. Um, yeah, so if anyone, let's give another person a chance if they would like to also talk about their idea, and otherwise, of course, they can, like you said, they can now. Sorry, my throat is really bad. They can route their questions to me, and I can forward them to you.
No, absolutely, because
So,
I know that it is too much to take at one point in time, especially with the fellows, because um, they are just starting or have started some time ago in their professional journey, or some of them are still students. So I know that it's a lot to take on, whereas people who are working have encountered such situations at some time or the other. So they might have had more questions, I guess.
yes. Right. So would anyone else like to kind of speak about their project and understand how it relates, or maybe all right. So I don't think anyone else has anything that they want to share right now. But just like Parinita said, please send us your questions, send them to me. I will put you in touch with Parinita, and we can take this. She can help you answer your questions, develop, as you're developing your project, work on it better, etc.
So, I mean, you can also look at the Inner Development Goals website, which is innerdevelopmentgoals.org. And, a lot of activities and a lot of initiatives are also listed out there. Also, there is something called as a hub. So, and I will not tell you what it is because I want you to go and read. So do go through, do see what a hub is, and we will keep. Sonali is there, of course, to help us stay connected, and we'll talk more about it as in when you are in a position that you want to, you know, uh, want to say something about
So thanks a lot, Panita. Thanks so much for doing this, and thanks to all of you for joining. If you have any questions that you think of later, please do let us know. But Parinita, is there anything that you would like to add before we end? Or
No, it's just that, well, thank you, Sonali, and thank you, Red Dot Foundation, and well, it's a good initiative that the alumni is doing. You know. Uh, Having these fellowships, the ESG fellowships. And thank you all for um, choosing to act and choosing to be a change maker, because it's a conscious choice that all of us have made. So thank you, and thank you for having me over.